We build our lives on foundations we believe are solid, on the unbreakable bonds of family, on the sacred vows of love. We imagine these pillars are immutable, standing against any storm, but sometimes the cracks are invisible. They run deep beneath the surface, eroding trust from the inside out until the entire structure collapses in a single devastating moment. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how my world shattered. Not by an act of fate or a random tragedy, but by the two people I loved and trusted most in the entire world. My sister, Eleanor, and my fiancé, David. Welcome to Heartfelt Confessions. Tonight, we unravel the agonizing confession of a betrayal so profound. It wasn't just a broken promise. It was an obliteration of my entire reality. The story of a sister's unforgivable deceit and a fiancé's hidden past that tore my life apart on the very eve of my wedding. Eleanor was my older sister by 4 years. From the moment I could form memories, she was the sun around which our family revolved. She was effortlessly beautiful, radiantly charismatic, and possessed a quick wit that charmed everyone she met. I, on the other hand, was always Sarah, the quiet one, the thoughtful one, the one who preferred books to parties, sketching to social gatherings. I lived perpetually in her dazzling shadow, a shade of beige against her vibrant crimson. Our parents adored her. Their praise for Eleanor was a constant, shimmering soundtrack to my childhood. Look at Eleanor's grades, Sarah. Eleanor is so talented, isn't she? Eleanor makes friends so easily. It wasn't that they didn't love me. I knew they did in their own way, but their love for Eleanor felt like a spotlight, while mine was a gentle, ambient glow. I carried this quiet, simmering resentment into adulthood. It wasn't a malicious hatred, more like a dull ache, a constant reminder that no matter what I achieved, Eleanor would always, somehow, be perceived as more. More successful, more loved, more everything. She was the first to leave for college, to find a high-powered job, to buy her own apartment in the city. And I, predictably, followed a few years behind, carving out my own niche as a graphic designer, a career Eleanor had once casually dismissed as art school fluff. We maintained a facade of sisterly affection. Family dinners, holiday gatherings, the occasional obligatory phone call. But beneath the polite smiles and exchanged pleasantries lay years of unspoken competition, perceived slights, and the vast, echoing space of what our relationship should have been. I longed for a connection that wasn't shadowed by her brilliance. I longed for someone to see me, truly see the Sarah beyond Eleanor's orbit. And then David walked into my life. David was everything I never knew I was missing. He was calm, steady, and possessed a quiet strength that drew me in from our very first meeting at a small coffee shop downtown. He wasn't flashy or loud. He was a history teacher, passionate about forgotten stories and the quiet power of the past. He listened intently, truly listened, to my rambling thoughts, to my design ideas, to my quiet anxieties about being good enough. With David, I didn't feel like Eleanor's little sister. I felt like Sarah, just Sarah, and that feeling was revolutionary. It was intoxicating. It was everything I had ever craved. Our relationship blossomed with a beautiful, unhurried grace. We spent evenings walking through old neighborhoods, discussing books, cooking elaborate meals, and simply existing in comfortable silence. He saw the intricate details in my art that no one else bothered to notice. He celebrated my small victories, and soothe my larger insecurities. After 3 years, David proposed. It was on a crisp autumn afternoon, in the very park where we'd had our first proper conversation. He knelt amidst falling leaves, a simple silver ring in his hand, and asked me to spend forever with him. My yes was immediate, tearful, and absolute. It was the happiest moment of my life. Our wedding planning began immediately. Every detail was chosen with care and love. The quaint chapel, the intimate reception, the rustic decorations, it was all a reflection of our quiet, deep affection. Eleanor, of course, was my maid of honor. She offered her usual blend of helpfulness and subtle, underlying critique. "Are you sure about those flowers, Sarah? They might clash with the bridesmaids' dresses. Perhaps a more modern venue, darling. This one feels a touch rustic." I brushed it off. It was just Eleanor being Eleanor, her way of trying to assert control, even over my happiness. I was too wrapped up in the glow of David's love to let her usual barbs penetrate. I had found my happiness, my perfect man, my solid foundation, or so I thought. The week leading up to the wedding was a whirlwind of last-minute details, family gatherings, and the delicious, dizzying anticipation of becoming Mrs. David Hayes. Eleanor was constantly by my side, seemingly a model maid of honor. She helped with guest favors, coordinated vendors, and even managed to keep my notoriously chaotic aunt calm. Her efficiency was, as always, both impressive and slightly irritating. On Wednesday, 2 days before the wedding, David had his bachelor party. A quiet affair, as was his preference with his closest friends. He called me before he went, his voice warm with love. "I love you, Sarah. I can't wait to make you my wife. 2 more days, my darling." I smiled, feeling completely at peace. This was it. My forever. That night, Eleanor stayed at my apartment. We were going over seating charts, sipping wine, and making final adjustments. She seemed relaxed, almost giddy. Around midnight, I noticed Eleanor's phone. It was lying face down on the coffee table, a subtle vibration causing it to shimmy slightly. She had gone to the bathroom. My curiosity, a flicker I often ignored, sparked to life. It was probably just a late-night text from a friend. Harmless, but as I reached for my own glass, my gaze lingered on her phone. A small, green notification light pulsed steadily. A new message from an unknown number. It wasn't the notification itself. It was the frequency. It had been vibrating subtly for almost 30 seconds. Not a single text. A cascade. My heart began to beat with an irregular rhythm. An instinct, cold and sharp, cut through the wine-induced haze. This wasn't normal. This wasn't a friend. I picked up the phone. My fingers trembled slightly. I told myself it was wrong, a violation. But the insistent pull was too strong to resist. I unlocked it. Eleanor didn't use a passcode. She never did. She was too open, too trusting, too. Eleanor. The screen lit up, revealing a single alarming text at the top of a long conversation with an unsaved number. I shouldn't have done that. Not tonight. Not so close to the wedding. She deserves better. You know the risk if she finds out about my past. My blood ran cold. The world tilted. The words blurred into a horrifying accusation. My past, so close to the wedding, and the sheer volume of prior messages, scrolling endlessly down the screen. The unsaved number. It couldn't be. I scrolled back and back, past days, past weeks, past months. The messages were intimate, loving, familiar, and then I saw it. A message from Eleanor sent weeks ago. Her exact words, written in her perfectly casual, yet subtly possessive style. Don't worry, David. Sarah won't ever know about us, or about your secret. We're safe. We just need to be careful until the wedding. You know, for appearances. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering softly onto the carpet. The sound was deafening in the sudden, shattering silence. My lungs seized. Air became a luxury I couldn't afford. The meticulously constructed world I had built around David's love and Eleanor's sisterly facade crumbled into dust. My sister, my fiancé, together. The dates on the messages spanned months. Their affair wasn't a drunken mistake, a moment of weakness. It was a calculated, sustained betrayal. And Eleanor knew a secret about David's past. I heard the toilet flush, the creak of the bathroom door. Eleanor was coming back. Panic clawed at my throat. I needed to hide the phone, to pretend. But how could I? The words were seared into my brain. The image of their smiling faces, their entwined hands from so many family photos, now morphed into grotesque masks of deceit. Eleanor entered the living room, a radiant smile on her face. Everything all right, darling? You look a bit pale. I stared at her, the woman I had spent a lifetime competing with, envying, and ultimately trusting with the most sacred moments of my life. She stood there, basking in the glow of my impending ruin, a subtle smirk playing at the corner of her lips. Everything's just wonderful, Eleanor. Just wonderful. I needed to know every excruciating detail, not just the affair, but the secret. The lever Eleanor had used against David. The next morning, the day before the wedding, I pretended nothing was amiss. I met David for a final pre-wedding brunch, my stomach churning with bile. He was oblivious, or a brilliant actor. He talked about our future, our honeymoon, the children we would have. Every word was a dagger. That afternoon, I confronted Eleanor. I chose a public park, a place where she couldn't escape easily, couldn't resort to her usual manipulative charm without attracting attention. I held her phone in my hand, the screen displaying the damning conversation. I saw your messages, Eleanor. All of them. With David. Eleanor's perfect composure cracked. Her face drained of color. For the first time in her life, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Sarah, what are you talking about? That's not what it looks like. It's a mistake. A mistake? For months? And what about David's past? What secret are you holding over him, Eleanor? What could possibly make my fiancé betray me for you? Eleanor finally broke. She confessed to the affair not with remorse, but with a twisted pride. She had always wanted what was mine. My happiness, my perfect life. But the secret, that was a harder extraction. It was something David had confided in her, trusting her as a sister, a trust she had weaponized. David was involved in a terrible accident years ago. He was driving drunk. He hit a pedestrian, a young woman. He paid off the family, made it disappear. But I found the old police report, Sarah. I threatened to expose him if he didn't cooperate. The world didn't just tilt, it imploded. The confession, both the affair and David's monstrous secret, left me hollow. Eleanor's cruelty was breathtaking. David's past was unspeakable. I canceled the wedding. The phone calls, the questions, the pitying looks, they were a blur. My parents were devastated, torn between their perfect daughter's disgrace and my profound heartbreak. David tried to explain, to beg for forgiveness, to justify his fear of exposure. But his words were meaningless. He had betrayed my love, my trust, and built our entire future on a foundation of lies and a hidden death. I loved you, Sarah. I swear I did. I was just terrified. Eleanor, she found out everything. His love, if it was love, was tainted by guilt, by coercion, by a secret that should have disqualified him from my affection entirely. Eleanor vanished for a while, consumed by her own shame and the family's disappointment. The silence she left behind was a stark contrast to her usual boisterous presence. My path to healing was long, arduous, and solitary. I moved apartments, changed my phone number, and slowly, painstakingly, rebuilt my life. I learned that some foundations cannot be repaired. Some bonds are irrevocably broken. The heartbreak was profound, but so was the clarity. I was no longer in Eleanor's shadow. I was no longer blinded by David's charisma. I was simply Sarah, a stronger, more resilient Sarah, forged in the fires of unforgivable betrayal. I eventually told the police about David's secret, anonymously. Justice, even delayed, felt like a small act of reclamation. My relationship with Eleanor remains severed. There are some wounds that even time cannot mend. Some confessions too devastating to forgive. We build our lives on trust. We believe in the people we love. But sometimes, the most heartbreaking confessions aren't spoken in whispers. They are screamed through acts of profound, unforgivable betrayal. This was a heartfelt confession, a story of a sister's jealousy, a fiancé's terrifying secret, and the woman who had to dismantle her entire world to finally find the truth. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to Heartfelt Confessions.